NAP 2020 to incorporate new technologies driving automotive sector further. Malaysia to send second rescue mission to Wuhan. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Amin Carlos and you're watching News on 2. Well, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad says the National Automotive Policy 2020 on NAP 2020 will introduce several new initiatives to ensure the policy will become a success. According to him, the NAP 2020 will incorporate 3 new advanced technology elements, namely next generation vehicle, mobility as a service, and Industrial Revolution 4.0. Well, he said apart from aligning with current technological trends, the NAP 2020 would also be a holistic industrial development policy catering to different needs and expectations of various stakeholders within the value chain.
In this regard, NAP 2020 has considered all possible elements in the areas of research and development, participation of domestic companies in the local and global supply chain, engineering activities, capability and capacity building of local talent, enhancement of exports as well as investment incentives.
The Premier added that with the launching of NAP 2020 today, it should be viewed by everyone as a balanced and comprehensive policy document that will consider the interests of all stakeholders in the domestic automotive sector. He also said that the real success of NAP 2020, however, lies in the implementation of its 7 respective roadmaps and blueprints. Tun Dr. Mahathir also called upon stakeholders from government agencies to private sectors to continue to work together objectively. Well, meanwhile, Tun Dr. Mahathir said that the new Malaysian vehicle project under the NAP 2020 will emphasize research and development, or R&D, and incorporation of the latest technologies in order to be competitive in both domestic and global markets. Now, the Prime Minister also said the new technology clusters as well as a new expert workforce, especially in the field of automotive engineering, will be developed consequently.
The new Malaysian vehicle project is expected to contribute significantly to the nation's economic development through its support for both the upstream and downstream industries, creating the demand of other related materials such as high-grade steel, plastics, rubber and petrochemical products, which will stimulate further growth of these sub-sectors.
The Premier added that NAP 2020 will set the pace for improvements and prepare the country's automotive industry to move towards the next phase of connected mobility. The NAP 2020 was formulated to enhance the NAP 2014 and to continuously develop the domestic automotive sector and its whole ecosystem in order to realize the national automotive vision. On a related note, International Trade and Industry Minister Dato' Darul Laking said the implementation of the National Automotive Policy 2020 is expected to contribute 104.2 billion ringgit to the country's gross domestic product, or GDP, by 2030. Now, according to Dato' Darul, the 10-year policy marks Malaysia's move towards becoming a regional leader in the automotive sector, particularly in the areas of manufacturing, engineering, technology and sustainable development, in line with the national automotive vision.
We at MITI would like to take this policy with a long-term perspective. While we address the current issue within our industry today, the NAP 2020 is truly about the long-term, the bigger picture that guides our thinking, capabilities and spirit towards driving the industrialization of this great nation.
In a statement released today, MITI also said the implementation of NAP 2020 is expected to create a total of 323,000 jobs by 2030, with total production industry volume for passenger and commercial vehicles targeted at 1.47 million units and total industry volume at 1.22 million units. Now, the policy aims to boost research of new technologies, creation of business and job opportunities, particularly for the small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, as well as the development development of new manufacturing processes and value chains within the local automotive and overall mobility sector. MITI said NAP 2020 has three directional thrusts, namely technology and engineering, investment and market expansion. The policy is centered on three strategies: value chain development, human capital development, as well as safety, environment and consumerism to promote the adoption of new, more environmentally friendly technologies. The implementation of the NAP 2020 are detailed in 7 blueprints, which will be continuously reviewed and updated to keep pace with disruptive and evolving global trends, technologies and demands. Well, more companies are expected to join in the government's food bank program for higher education institutions, especially after the Food Donor Protection Bill 2019 was approved by the Dewan Rakyat last year. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dato Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said so far 430 companies had contributed to the food bank program, adding that last month alone the ministry had received offers from 2 multinational companies.
Lulusnya Undang-Undang Perlindungan Penderma itu, awal tahun ini kami telah didatangi oleh beberapa syarikat pengeluar dan pengedar yang terkemuka berjenama antarabangsa yang datang menyatakan hasrat mereka untuk menjamin bekalan berterusan selama 2 tahun, dan 1 MOU telah kita tandatangani. Misalnya yang telah kita buat pada bulan Januari ialah dengan Nestle.
Dato Sri Saifuddin Nasution said this after launching the food bank program for institutions of higher learning, including teacher education institutes, polytechnics and private higher education institutions in Malaim, Malacca today. Malacca Polytechnic, Merlimau Polytechnic and Malay Women Teachers Training College in Durian Down became the first private institutions to implement the program. Well, former national diving coach Wang Kiang was today set free for the 3rd time from a charge of raping a diving athlete 3 years ago. Now, this was after the High Court upheld the Sessions Court's decision, which acquitted and discharged Wang on 9th April 2018 and 31st January last year. Now, Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali made the decision after dismissing an appeal by the prosecution. Now, in his findings, Muhammad Nazlan said the defense had raised the issue of a time lapse in which the closed-circuit television or CCTV at the dry gym where the alleged incident took place had recorded a more detailed version of the defense case. Muhammad Nazlan said in totality of the evidence, he found that the trial judge did not err when reaching the decision that the accused had raised a reasonable doubt against his charge. He said the trial court was correct in its judgment that the prosecution had not proved the case beyond reasonable doubt. Huang, 38, who is from China, was charged with raping the victim, a national diver who was then 20 years old, at a dry gym at the National Aquatics Center in the Bukit Jalil Sports Complex, Sri Petaling, at about 5:30 p.m. on 26 September 2017. Now, the man who has obtained Malaysian citizenship was charged under Section 376, subsection 1 of the Penal Code, which provides for imprisonment of up to 20 years and whipping if found guilty. Huang was first acquitted without having his defense called on 9th April 2018 after the court found that the prosecution had failed to establish a prima facie case against him. He was subsequently ordered to enter his defense after the court allowed an appeal by the prosecution against his acquittal. However, he was released again on 31st January last year after he succeeded in raising a reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case. Now, the Road Transport Department, RTD, has issued 795 advocacy notices nationwide to vehicle drivers who carry children without using the Child Restraint System, or CRS, or child car seats, since the regulation was made mandatory starting January this year. Now, Deputy Transport Minister Dato Kamaruddin Jaafar said the advocacy notices were issued to advise drivers to use their CRS when transporting children. Now, speaking to reporters after opening RTD Tasca in Bukit Katil, Malacca. Dato' Kamarudin said the RTD is actively reminding road users, especially the parents, to install the CRS to ensure the safety of children on the road. Now, the installation of CRS could prevent a child from being thrown out of a car and also help reduce the risk of injury in an accident. Now, according to Dato' Kamarudin, studies had shown that children are at greater risk of serious injury in an accident if they are allowed to sit on others' lap or on the front passenger's seat. He said this is because they can easily be thrown out of the car or trapped by the airbags activated by the impact of an accident. Well, coming up, Zed Zaidi among 4 charged with fear-mongering over COVID-19. News on 2 continues. Now, Malaysia will be sending another plane to Wuhan to evacuate its citizens from the city in China on 25th February. And Deputy Prime Minister Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail said about 75 Malaysians, as well as their spouses and children, will be brought back in a special Air Asia flight. The second evacuation flight, Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah added, will be managed similarly to the first mission on 4th February.
Laporan status terkini daripada Kementerian. Dan saya difahamkan bahawa lapangan terbang Wuhan berjauhan juga dengan tempat. Jadi kalau mereka tidak ada transport, itu memberikan lebih kekangan lah. Tetapi yang lain itu yang memang sedia, memang banyak, memang bersedia, sebab kita ada negara-negara lain ada 2 misi bantuan ya yang bawa pulang. Ini kita misi yang kedua. Jadi kalau misi yang ketiga tu belum lagi ditentukan. Ini misi kemungkinan terakhirlah.
As soon as they land at KLIA, the passengers will be taken to the Air Disaster Unit or ADU building, where they will go through a health screening before being sent to the Higher Education Leadership Academy or AKEPT in Negeri Sembilan to be quarantined for 14 days. Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah said this at a press conference after chairing a high-level committee meeting on COVID-19 in Putrajaya. On 4th February, Malaysia flew 107 people home from Wuhan, 2 of whom were later taken to hospital Kuala Lumpur after they were found to be symptomatic at the health screening done at the ADU. Subsequent tests on them found that they were COVID-19 negative. However, a father and son who were among the Wuhan returnees later tested positive for COVID-19 and were taken to hospital Tuanku Jafar in Seremban to be treated. At the end of the 14-day quarantine period on 18 February, all of the 107 returnees, including the father and son, were allowed to return home after they were all declared COVID-19 negative.
A few hours lah.
Well, on a related note, Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah said Malaysia will not ban visitors from China for now, as there is no necessity to do so. The Deputy Prime Minister said instead the government will be imposing more stringent checks on people arriving from China, the epicenter of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Memang dibincangkan, namun hari ini kita bersyarat tidak ada keperluan. Kita teruskan, tetapi kita perketatkan rakyat Malaysia yang balik daripada China atau sesiapa yang nasional yang bukan rakyat Malaysia pun yang telah pergi ke China dalam masa 14 hari, balik dia mesti lalui persaringan kesihatan.
Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah, who is also chairman of the National Anti-Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, said those arriving from China will also be given swab tests on top of the thermal screening, which is done at all entry points. She added that China nationals who are studying in Malaysia will have to undergo health screening arranged by their universities. This, however, does not apply to students who have already been in Malaysia for more than 14 days, taking into consideration the 14-day incubation period for COVID-19. The Malaysian Artists Association, also known as Seniman, its president, Zed Zaidi, and 3 others were charged at the Sepang Magistrates Court today with publishing statements on Facebook and Twitter regarding COVID-19, which are likely to cause fear or alarm to the public last month. Now, Zed Zaidi, whose real name is Rozaidi Abdul Jamil, age 40, however, pleaded not guilty and claimed trial to the charge after it was read out to him before Magistrate A. Akhiruddin alias Boy Archo. Now, Zaid Zaidi was alleged to have committed the offence through his tweet with the handle at Rozaidi Jamil on 27 January, which was read by the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC, in Cyberjaya at 10:30 a.m. on 29 January. Now, the charge under Section 505, subsection B of the Penal Code carries imprisonment, which may extend to 2 years, or with fine, or both, upon conviction. Now, the magistrate allowed him bail of 5,000 ringgit and set 11 March for remention. On 31st January, Zaid Zaidi was questioned by the MCMC for 2 hours regarding the report titled "Breaking News, All Countries Except Malaysia. All countries have banned Chinese tourists except Malaysia," which he shared on Twitter and Facebook. Now, at the same court, a company director, Muhammad Khairul Anwar Rosli, 30, also pleaded not guilty and claimed trial to the same charge. He was alleged to have spread the fake news on COVID-19 using quote-unquote "Oh My Media" web application, which was detected by the MCMC on 27 January. Now, Magistrate A. Akhiruddin allowed him bail of 5,000 ringgit and set 17 March for remention. Meanwhile, 2 other men, a technician, Muhammad Effendi Muhammad Said, 34, and a businessman, Said Muhammad Faiz Said Nasir, 28, pleaded guilty to the charge. Now, both of them admitted having committed the offence using their Facebook and Twitter, which were read by the MCMC on 27 January. Magistrate A. Akhiruddin set 17 March for his sentencing. The relevant authorities will leave no stone unturned as they hunt down irresponsible individuals spreading fake and seditious news. Deputy Communications and Multimedia Minister, Dr. Edin Shazli Sith, said there will be no compromise, especially on those who use fake social media accounts. Dato Edin said these individuals should not take advantage of the government's openness in allowing freedom of speech by spreading fake news meant to create disharmony among the multiracial, multi-religious communities in the country.
Jangan ingat, kalau sekalipun fake account, kita tidak mempunyai keupayaan untuk mengesan siapa pemilik akaun tersebut. Saya percaya dengan teknologi dan kemampuan yang ada, ini amaran yang ada kepada SKMM, sesiapa pun pemegang akaun palsu itu boleh ditrace dengan semudah yang tidak disangka oleh pemilik akaun tersebut. Ini satu peringatan, kita akan cari, seperti kata YPN tadi, sekiranya perlu sampai ke lubang cacing, kita akan cari.
He said this in a joint media conference with Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Muhammad Hanifah Maidin, in Putrajaya today. Dato Edin added that since January 2019, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, had already investigated 62 cases relating to fake news, and out of that total, 8 cases have been brought to court with 9 charges. Well, 10 million pieces of face masks will be made available in the market by next week. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Dr. Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said the assurance came following several discussions with the Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Human Resources and Ministry of Finance, which all agreed that the supply of sufficient face masks is vital, especially in the workplace.
Saya mengadakan pertemuan dengan Menteri Kewangan dan itu juga telah pun kita uruskan. Jadi supaya pihak industri tidak ada lagi kekangan untuk tujuan itu. Now sekarang mereka telah bersedia untuk meningkatkan jualan dan jualan mereka itu pun kerajaan akan melakukan pembelian. Kita akan melakukan pembelian mengikut keupayaan pengeluaran mereka. Jadi mengikut anggaran awal, keupayaan pengeluaran mereka itu akan berlaku dalam tempoh seminggu dua ini, dalam tempoh seminggu ini hampir 10 juta.
Dr. Sri Saifuddin Nasution said the face mask will be acquired by the government as well as wholesalers and retailers. He also reminded retailers not to raise the price of face masks or face stern action, adding that between 29 January and 20th February, 62,400 ringgit worth of compounds were issued for 28 cases under the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act 2011. The Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, MIER, does not discount the possibility of another overnight policy rate, or OPR, cut being introduced later this year. due to the impact from the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 situation in Malaysia.
So the higher case is actually the worst case.
Chairman Tan Sri Dato Dr. Kamal Saleh said the move would promote growth momentum in the economy and provide sufficient liquidity in the market.
Yeah, sure, it should have some positive impact. That means more liquidity will go into the market, and since the income of a stream that might have been affected by the outbreak, this would be a way to release more liquidity into the system. So cutting the OPR is very important.
He said this during a press conference on the impact of the COVID-19 on the Malaysian economy today. He added the move would generate growth in the economy amid streamlining enough cash flow in the market. On 22nd January, Bank Negara Malaysia, BNM, reduced the OPR by 25 basis points to 2.75%, the lowest since 2011. And that concludes this evening's News on 2. In our top story, NAP 2020 to incorporate new technologies driving automotive sector further. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Amin Carlos. Stay tuned to TV2 and have a pleasant evening.